The Indiana Fever's 2024 season, filled with high hopes and championship aspirations, has been unceremoniously derailed by injuries. What was supposed to be the year they took a leap into title contention has quickly transformed into a nightmare that no one could have predicted. On Thursday night in Phoenix, the Fever's dreams of a championship were all but shattered. And while injuries are a part of the game, this one felt different. It wasn't just a couple of bumps and bruises. It was an entire backcourt crumbling in the span of a single game. The most devastating blow came in the first quarter when veteran point guard Sydney Coulson, who had been filling in while Caitlyn Clark recovered from her own injury, tore her ACL. The 36-year-old had been the steady presence the Fever desperately needed in Clark's absence, but now, her season, and potentially her career, has been cut short. Watching Coulson go down, her left leg collapsing beneath her, was a brutal reminder of how fragile championship dreams can be. It didn't look like an ACL tear when it happened. Initially, it seemed like a meniscus or MCL injury, something that could keep her out for the season but offer some hope for a quick return. But that hope was quickly dashed as the injury turned out to be far worse than expected. Coulson's season, and perhaps her career, could be over before the end of the year. And as if that wasn't enough, the injury bug wasn't done yet. Aari Mcdonald, the former Arizona standout who had quickly become an unexpected star for the Fever, went down in the fourth quarter with a broken bone in her right foot. In an instant, the Fever's already depleted point guard depth was obliterated. The team was now without both starting point guards, and the entire backcourt was left in shambles. It was a situation that no one saw coming, and one that was so catastrophic that it left the Fever with no immediate solutions. The team's depth chart, once a well-organized structure, now looked like a blank piece of paper with "Help Wanted" scrawled across it in bold red letters. But this wasn't just about the point guards. The Fever's hopes for a successful season were already hanging by a thread, and these injuries have only made matters worse. Caitlyn Clark, the franchise's golden child and the player who was supposed to lead the Fever to glory, has been sidelined since mid-July with a groin injury. She's missed 10 straight games, 18 out of 31 games this season, and while she's made progress in her rehab, her return is still uncertain. The Fever entered this season with high hopes, buoyed by the return of coach Stephanie White, the addition of veterans like Natasha Howard, Dana Bonner, and Sydney Coulson, and the undeniable presence of Clark and Aaliyah Boston. The team had the pieces in place for a championship run. Now, that dream is rapidly slipping away. With just 9 healthy players on the roster and no healthy point guards to run the offense, the Fever face a daunting challenge as they prepare to take on the Chicago Sky. According to WNBA rules, they can't sign a hardship replacement until after the game, meaning they have to play with a skeleton crew. To make matters even more frustrating, the team has no immediate solutions for their backcourt crisis. Even if they were to bring in a hardship player after the game, the fact remains that no one available can truly replace the depth they've lost. The team could theoretically sign a player like Odyssey Sims, who was recently released by the Sparks, or Jalen Shearid, who was cut by New York, but these are not plug-and-play solutions. They're temporary fixes that won't solve the deeper issues the Fever are facing. The timing of these injuries could not be worse. The Fever had fought through Clark's earlier injuries, had built team chemistry, and had positioned themselves as legitimate playoff contenders. The team's early struggles seemed like they would be overcome, and their victory over Minnesota in the Commissioner's Cup reinforced the belief that this team was capable of competing with the best. But now, that confidence feels misplaced. The season, once brimming with promise, is slipping through their fingers, and the road ahead is filled with uncertainty. The numbers only tell part of the story. With Clark on the court, the Fever have a solid record of 8-5. Without her, they're a much more modest 9-7. Those numbers might suggest some depth, but the reality is that losing Mcdonald and Colson in one fell swoop has crippled the backcourt. The team now has to rely on role players who weren't built to take on the burden of starting. Kelsey Mitchell, an off-ball scorer by nature, is being asked to run the offense. Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, both of whom have played supporting roles for much of their careers, are suddenly expected to handle playmaking duties. It's like asking someone to do a job they're not prepared for, and the results have been predictable. The lack of depth and the absence of key players have exposed the Fever's vulnerabilities, and they now find themselves at a crossroads. For Caitlyn Clark, the mental toll of the season has been just as difficult as the physical. In a recent Instagram post, Clark shared a simple message of support for her teammates, but behind those 3 words and 2 heart emojis lies the frustration of a player who has never had to deal with injuries like this before. In her 4 years at Iowa, she never missed a game, and her rookie season in the WNBA was just as grueling, yet she played every single contest. Now, she's relegated to watching from the sidelines, unable to help her team as they fight for survival. It's a bitter pill for someone who was supposed to be the face of this franchise and the league's future. As the Fever continue to battle through this injury crisis, the question looms: can they salvage their playoff hopes with such a short-handed roster? The odds are stacked against them, and the team has little margin for error. The Chicago game on Saturday is just one example of how difficult things have become. With no point guards and a patched-up roster, the Fever are underdogs against a Sky team that still boasts talent like Angel Reese. The betting lines give the Fever an 11.5-point advantage, but that was before anyone realized the full extent of their injury woes. This season, which seemed so full of potential, has now turned into a test of resilience for the Fever. Can a team with 9 healthy players and no backcourt depth compete in the postseason? The odds aren't in their favor, but they still have one thing on their side: heart. However, as the games tick by and the losses pile up, it's becoming increasingly clear that the Fever's championship hopes are on life support, and they need a miracle to stay alive. Despite everything, the Fever are still in contention for a playoff spot. ESPN's Basketball Power Index gives them a 98% chance of making the postseason, but that doesn't account for the exhaustion, the frustration, and the mounting pressure of playing with an incomplete roster. The championship window is still open, but it's getting narrower by the day. If the Fever can't find a way to weather this storm, they'll be left to wonder what might have been, as their once promising season slips away into the abyss. This was supposed to be Caitlyn Clark's year, the season where she finally got to showcase her skills on the biggest stage. Instead, she's been sidelined, watching as the Fever struggle without her. It's a cruel reality for a player who has given so much to the game, and yet, this season might be remembered as the one that got away. The Fever have to act quickly, or they risk watching their championship dreams evaporate before their eyes. But in the world of professional sports, things can change in an instant. Whether the Fever can rally to overcome their injuries, or if this season will be remembered as one of what could have been, remains to be seen.